Welcome to the art and science of complex sales. This is the Leadership Quarter. This is a podcast for revenue, sales, and go-to-market leaders and practitioners that is focused on bringing you insights from the best and brightest the world has to offer. The Leadership Quarter is focused on asking the critical questions. How do we develop and empower sales leaders to build strong cultures and teams to hit our growth goals? Experts from around the world give their experiences and opinions on this critical aspect of sales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on your favorite podcast platform. And let's dive into introducing today's guests. Our guest today describes himself as a bit of a sales contrarian. After listening to the show, I think you'll agree, but I also think you'll describe him as a true sales leader. Steve Heroux is the author of the book, Sales is Not a Dirty Word. He's the founder and CEO of the Sales Collective, a veteran sales leader, and a sought-after speaker. Today, we go all over the map, but really dive in and focus on the creation of sales culture and sales leaders to get the job done. So let's get started with Steve. Steve, welcome to the show. How the heck are you?
How's it going, Paul? Good to see you, man.
It's good to see you too. I'm really excited for today's episode. And remind me again, and for the listeners, what part of the world are you in?
Presently, I'm actually home in Dallas. Normally, I actually had somebody ask me this yesterday, Vistage Talk. They go, "Where do you live?" And I said, primarily seat 9A, sometimes 4A, but depends on my luck that day. Yes, I reside in Dallas, Texas, soon to be back to San Diego. So end of the year, back to the old stomping grounds.
So you're a window seat guy if it's A.
Yes, yeah. Left side window.
Left side window.
Yeah, it's functionality with laptops and things. Do a lot of writing on planes, so I can encroach. I get a little more space with the right elbow with somebody next to me versus into the window. So left side of the plane.
You got the natural sleeping too on the left side of the shoulder. I get it. I'm a left side window or a right side aisle guy myself, because if I go aisle on the right side, nothing works for me.
Yep, I can see that.
I get stuck. Exit row is also a big plus. Yep. I tend to be a Southwest person, and I fight for that exit row.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, it's wonderful to meet you, and thanks for coming on. We're gonna start with where we start normally, which is just set the baseline. And so we're talking sales. Let's define it first. So from your perspective, Steve, how do you define sales?
It's an interesting question. I will define what people think salespeople are through an incredible interaction, which you're the maybe third person I'm telling. So Daniel Pink just emailed me back.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah. So I'm in the middle of my second book right now, but I needed to get permission from Daniel for something that he put in to Sell as Human. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because it's a study and there's a word cloud attached to it. So they ask people, what's the first word that comes to mind when you hear the word sales or salesperson? I'm sure you can think of the long list of horrendous traits that people say, but they're all terrible. I mean, pushy, obnoxious, rude, condescending. I mean, if you saw the word cloud, you'd know what I mean. And so it's really what's the perception of sales, not really what sales should be, but what is the perception of sales? And for us in the industry, it's not great. So if you're a salesperson, and even worse, again, a sales leader who exacerbates the perception that salespeople are, scum-sucking bottom feeders, because that's what leaders do, because they're attached to some made-up quota from a boardroom and a spreadsheet that has nothing to do with what really helps the prospect. It's really what sales are not. And so that's my entire reason for getting up in the morning, is to completely change the perception of salespeople. So I know it's not a direct answer, but
it's a wonderful answer.
Came to mind.
Daniel Pink. I don't know him, which is actually, so I just became a little bit of a Steve fanboy just because Daniel. But that book is one of my favorites, actually. And it's one of the ones that helped me realize how much I truly love sales again. I went through a period of not being passionate about it, of being a little bit burned out, but it was one of the ones that helped me actually grab onto that. And so that word cloud is.
Yeah, it's incredible. When you look it up, you're just like, pushy. Yuck is the second most commonly said word, by the way. When somebody describes this, yuck is second. Third is ugh. And if they did this study now, fourth would probably be a puke emoji. But that's all caused by companies, right? Forcing magic quotas that mean nothing to anybody onto the salespeople, which then creates more commission breath, which then creates horrible experiences for people, which then again exacerbates the perception that salespeople are blood-sucking vampires. So we have to change all that.
Sweetie, I got a new job. I'm in the yuck profession. No, that doesn't. That's ugh. Profession. No, that sounds shitty. That's I'm completely in line with that passion because I'm the same one. The mission of our company is to elevate the sales profession. We're just absolutely committed and passionate to it, which is when you get down to it, everything I'm looking at right here in my little office cube and everything around has been sold, right? And so it builds communities, it builds companies, it builds people's lives. It's a noble profession. And so that, starting from the top, we are going to dive into creating sales leadership that doesn't dive into that doesn't cause that ugh perception. That's the broad topic and the broad canvas for you today, Steve. And wherever you want to start on that, let's dive in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I thought of this just now, but you think about a player on a sports team who is just completely selfish, all about them, right? All about the name on the back of the jersey. Because they're the best player on the team, would you promote them to be the coach? And if you did, why would you do that? Why would you want somebody like that coaching other players? But that's what companies do all day, every day. You mentioned Southwest. I'm fairly confident that Southwest doesn't go to their flight attendants and go, hey, want to land this thing? Want to be a pilot next summer? What do you mean? Well, you're a great flight attendant and you have worked on the plane for 6 years. So, I mean, I guess you could just land it, right? I mean, what? It's just like, what are you doing? This is what companies do, and they've done for 100 years. Like, there is no conceivable reason to think that somebody who is really good at sales will magically somehow know how to lead salespeople. But companies do it all day, every day. And guess who suffers? The salespeople. Because now they have to be led by someone who has no idea what they're doing. And so that is a huge issue that I see with sales leadership. And we see it every day in every state and every city.
So how do you fix it? Because it seems to be the modus operandi. I've had a number of other people on the show that say the same thing, right? And so you're looking at a talent pool and you're looking at, you got 10 people on a team, right? Yeah. Stephanie is leading the team. She's number one. And your VP of sales just left, right? What do you as a CEO do?
So the default reaction, right? Or I should say the lazy reaction is, well, we already have these 10 people, so let's just use one of them. No. If your executive chef leaves your restaurant, you don't make your best server the executive chef. You go get a better executive chef. And they may not work in your restaurant. But CEOs take the easy way out. And so they just want to do what's easy, and it will kill them long term. More importantly, the server, who's your best server, you now took out of being a server. So now she's not going to be happy and doing what she's doing. So you lost your best server. You put them into a leadership position they're not qualified for. So now you're really damaging two different roles in your restaurant. And this is what companies do all day, every day. So you could mitigate that. And you already know this and all the stuff that we do with OMG and Sales DNA and so on. If you do think somehow you think it would be a good idea to see if one of your salespeople could become a sales leader, you have to evaluate, you have to assess. And if there's somebody that does look like they may have the skills or ability or want to do it, if you do decide to put them in that role, you better get them coaching like yesterday on how to lead people. Being able to execute the task, right, of operating a machine, like if you're a CNC machinist, that doesn't mean that you can teach that to other people. But this is what companies do. And it's part of our role in what we do as an organization to help them stop doing that.
Well, I was about ready to ask, I'm going to formulate the question a little bit differently because your example is a perfect one. And then, so what I don't hear you saying is that that top rep can't be the sales leader, right? I don't hear you saying that. But what I do hear you saying is most often that top rep is put in there and expected to be the sales leader with all of the leadership capabilities, with all of the traits, with all of the tips and the tricks. I find that often that's the case, is that somebody gets put into that position and it's the CEO's like, well, shit, it's sales. Good luck. You guys know what you're doing, right? Whereas, you go to finance gets their CPAs, their accountants, all that stuff. You go to operations, they get operation consultants. Sales is not often looked at that way, as what you just said. Make sure they get that coach or that mentor or that group that they're a part of. That's got to be critical for success. Yeah,
I mean, and we don't say can't, because maybe 10% of the time it works out. I don't know, roughly. But look at sports. I mean, how many legends do you know that were incredible players that were horrendous coaches? The list goes on. Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson. I mean, I could list them all. Isaiah Thomas. There was one guy that was a all-star, which, player, right? Larry Bird. Coach of the year, Larry Bird. Executive of the year, Larry Bird. He was all three. He's the only one I have ever seen that has mastered all three layers. It's just looking for a, purple and yellow striped unicorn with 5 legs. Like it's just, they're not there. Right? So you could get lucky, but it's more likely, believe it or not, to be able to find a great sales leader who was not the top performer. That is much more likely. So look at Andy Reid. They just won the Super Bowl, right? 3 Super Bowls. Look at Bill Belichick, 7 Super Bowls. Look at Tom Landry. The list goes on, right? Bill Walsh, 4 Super Bowls. How many of them were all-pro players? 0. So we just live in this mentality of, you have to be really good at sales to be a sales leader. It's just not even remotely accurate in any other realm. But for some reason, we do it in sales.
What's interesting about that is, and I just am putting some pieces together for the first time. Like Michael Jordan could always be the best. Right. Yeah. He would step on the court. He would be the best. There's some salespeople that are going to do that. They're going to be the best. But there is a whole other group of people. Like you look at Steve Kerr. I was a former Cavs fan, and he's now, head coach of the Golden State Warriors. Right? But he was. Did you? So just a great shooter, great role player, great team player. But he had to emphasize and rely on the talents of others and make those better for him to do his job well. Yeah. Right. If he didn't like get to the exact right place where Michael Jordan could put him the ball at the exact site to emphasize Michael Jordan's passing ability so he could hit a shot when he was on the Bulls that beat my Cavs, he's never going to be. So that's what we're looking for in a sales leader, is that person that can do that, plus build that culture. And so how do you go about helping companies find that? You're not looking for the the unicorn with 5 legs and purple and yellow stripes. How do you go about helping them find that perfect fit?
It's funny, this came up yesterday in San Antonio, sort of about pushing and pulling. In other words, like with sales, right? You don't want to push, you want to pull. In other words, the world-class salespeople, people come to them. They get referrals, they get interested people, right? They get inquiries because they did a great job. And if you think about recruiting in college sports or college, academics, there are schools that don't have to recruit 1 minute of the day, and they have 10,000 kids that want to go there. But that's because of what they've built. And so the way I teach culture is sort of the way Field of Dreams was created. So you may or may not remember Field of Dreams.
Oh, yep.
Kevin Costner, if y'all listening don't remember, watch it. But one of the last aerial shots of the movie is the cornfields, right? With thousands of cars, coming to see the Field of Dreams. That's not why Ray built the field. He didn't build the field to sell tickets. He built the field for his dad, and then the Black Sox showed up, and so on. So when I teach culture in organizations, it's if you build it, they will come. They will all come. Talented people will want to come and work for you, and customers will want to buy from you. But you have to build it for the right reasons. You can't fake building a culture so you can improve, right, your net promoter score or your employee engagement. You have to build it because you want the best people, the best talent, the best customers, and so on. But that's not how organizations are built. And it's certainly not how salespeople are taught, right? They don't care about the customer. They just are told, you need to hit this arbitrary number we made up in the boardroom. And again, it just tells you why people don't like salespeople, because they know it's all about the top line revenue and EBITDA and my bonus and whatever, right? It's like the customer's needs are sixth. So you have to build a culture where you attract the right people. And this worked much better, when the Patriots were not a dumpster fire. But you would have guys like Randy Moss who just do whatever they want. They're the Michael Jordan. They do whatever they want. Not here. You ain't doing Randy Moss. You are following our system and our process. And if you don't, see ya. So, but you've got to create that. It's what Coach K created at Duke. It's what Coach Oriema created at UConn. There's just so many examples of people will mold to what the culture is, right? They're not going to come in and blow it up, but it has to be built the right way from the beginning. And so that's really a lot of the stuff that we teach. It is not about numbers and quotas and, dumb stuff like that.
Well, I have this question that runs through my head, and I talk to a lot, my best, a number of other people about. I want to address it very directly with you then. So when you're building this culture and you're building the sales team and you're building this, a sales culture is a culture of perpetual growth. It's a culture of continual learning. It's a culture of continual service and leadership. Like, so many, I think CEOs get it wrong when they say they don't need to be involved in the sales, in building the sales culture. And I've seen it a whole lot I was an outsourced sales organization. We were an outsourced sales. I built that some time ago in my career, one of my first companies. We would get brought in because the CEOs didn't want to deal with sales, right? But I think that's such a flaw in thinking.
Big time, yeah.
And so, because if you don't have the leader of a system connected to your why, which is essentially how you get revenue, how are you going to operate? So how do you solve that? I mean, how do you fix that? How do you work with companies to create that culture and engagement with the leadership team?
We don't. We pass.
There you go.
I won't say the name. Here, you go use the magic training system, right? Good luck with them, right? This is not going to work. I was telling you about the Vistage thing, right? So I'm, doing Vistage talks, right? 90 times a year. So this was in maybe Tennessee, somewhere down south. And we were talking about culture and how important it is, right? To have salespeople that enjoy what they do and so on. Mm-hmm. And the CEO in the middle of my talk, he goes, "I don't want happy salespeople." And I go, "Must be a real joy to work for you, sir. I can't believe you have culture problems. I just can't believe it." And later on, he piped up again later on, and I'm like, "Hey, sir, there's a phone call for you. It's the 70s. You're missing." So it's just crazy how these CEOs think that the salespeople care about their stock price or their EBITDA. Like what? So when CEOs are just completely out of touch with reality, have no emotional intelligence and zero self-awareness, there isn't enough money on the planet, right, that they could pay us to work with them, right? They are just not going to change. So we don't even work with those clients, right? Someone else, they could be someone else's headache, right? There's just no chance.
Well, the disconnect is massive, right? I've seen it in my life a number of times when you have like an amazing product. You have talented people, but there's just that disconnect. And it comes in a variety of ways. Like one of the things that I want to talk about, you've mentioned it a couple of times, is this idea of numbers from the boardroom.
Yeah.
And that is often one of the massive sources. I mean, you've mentioned it like 7 times, right? A massive source of disconnect between the salesperson and the leadership, even if they have the greatest culture in the world, even if they are pushing, they just get this disconnect. What do you like? How do you fix that? What do you attribute that? What is the impact on a leadership culture?
You said massive disconnect. So I'll go back because we talked about the Daniel Pink thing.
Yeah.
There's some books and things, right, that explain this in normal everyday life. And many of you listening and understand, like, what the golden rule is? Well, what's the golden rule?
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Okay, you've heard that.
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody on us listening has heard that. I'm going to give y'all a little thought on this. Stop doing that ever. Don't ever do that. Nobody cares what you think. And a lot of CEOs have this maniacal ego where they actually think people do. They don't. You do not treat people the way you want to be treated. Nobody cares how you want to be treated. You treat people the way they want to be treated. Platinum rule. And this is what all leaders do not understand. And most of the leaders that are, let's say, over 45 or whatever, over 50, right? They all make fun of millennials and X. Oh, they're all entitled. It doesn't matter what you think, because if you don't need recognition, if you don't need appreciation, you don't give it. And they can't seem to figure out why people aren't responding. And those of y'all that know the 5 love languages, have you heard of this book, Paul?
Yeah.
Do you know the gist of the book, what the point of the book is?
I took the love languages test, and I know my wife's, and I know
Okay. Okay.
So how we communicate together. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to master hers.
Oh, really? Oh, yes. Not your own?
Not my own. Yes.
Are you listening, sales leaders and CEOs? You find out the way your salespeople want to be led, not what you think. And it's funny, man, when you mention this whole chasm thing, and I have to say it because I was working on it for 2 hours this morning with the whole Daniel thing. So I'm in the middle of my second book, and it's like 6 months just of copyright editing. Like, it's insane. But the other book that came out that everybody knows, same year as 5 Love Languages, is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, which everyone knows that book is 100 million friggin' copies. The title of my book, because you mentioned the massive disconnect, is called Salespeople Are from Mercury, Sales Managers Are from Uranus. And my publisher's like, you can't have that title. I go, that's the title. What are you talking about? I go, that's the title. Because, by the way, y'all, if you don't know the chasm between those two planets, right, it's about 1.7 billion miles apart. Mm-hmm. Salespeople, sales managers. And to go back to the culture thing, like we go in and we talk to potential clients and we ask the salespeople, do you feel recognized, appreciated, and valued by your leadership team? And 99.9% of the time they say no. Then we ask the same exact leaders of those same salespeople, do you recognize, value, and appreciate your salespeople? And 100% of them go, oh, yeah. Did you see the commission check Molly got last week? Again, McFly, anybody home? I'm really? And they can't seem to figure out why their salespeople aren't performing. So that's the stuff that it's really hard to fix, right? When people think like that. So we just find the people who don't think like that. It's much more enjoyable to work with those types of clients, right? Than trying to convince somebody this guy's purple because they think it's purple. So it's a tough situation. And I can tell you this, the best salespeople in the world, they want to be valued. They want to be appreciated. They want to be respected. They want to be paid what they're worth. And you get a bunch of companies that are, cutting commissions, which you've probably seen in your lifetime, right? The salespeople make too much money. We had a client, and this gal, Monica, she was an incredible salesperson. She set company record after company record, right? Back to back to back. So the salespeople tell us, and my team, they tell us everything, right? They don't tell their managers. So she comes to me, she goes, by the way, Todd is going to cut my pay. Todd's the CEO. I go, what? Go, yeah, they're cutting my commissions. They say I make too much money. I go, well, let me talk to him. So I call him. I go, Todd, I got to ask you something. I hope this is just like a bad episode of the Twilight Zone, or Peaky Blinders. This is not real, but are you considering cutting Monica's commission? He goes, yeah, we talked about it. Like she makes too much money. I go, can you say that again? Yeah, Steve, she makes too much money. She made 500 grand last year. I made 400. She made more than me. I'm the CEO. And I said, Todd, she's great. You're not. Like, what don't you understand here? And, he got pissed at me, whatever. She left, by the way, 2 days later. Where do you think she went?
Their best competitor.
Yep. The next one that's going to blow right by them. But hey, good old Todd saved 75 grand and lost like 12 million a year in revenue. So, good decision. But hey, can't make more than me.
I was lucky to grow up in my professional career in a culture where I was taught, like, if you don't have reps, just smoking the CEO in income, you're not a good company, right? Because this happens all over. You should want that. You want that. You want to open up opportunity because it drives everything in the business. Like a sales culture, it drives everything. Yeah. I just was talking. There was a Fortune 500 company, I was blown away. I mean, they had people making seven figures, consistently on their sales team, and they're like, I think they're doing the same type of thing. They have the finance guy got in and just said, wait, we're paying these people way too much. I mean, but it's the funny thing is, I mean, they're selling $200-300 million a year on quota, and they're paying people seven figures. And so
economics, right?
Yeah.
They brought in 300 million and we have a 20% margin. Okay. Cool. That's $60 million. All right. And we paid them 1 million. Our net margin on 60 million is 30 million. Would you trade $1 million for 30 million? No, they're making too much money. It's like, what are you? But this is it's all the time, y'all. And y'all listening to this, this is normal behavior. This happens in companies all the time, and they just don't get it. And so where do you think these amazing salespeople want to go?
Want to come work for us. Now they want to come work for the team that is hitting numbers, knocking it out of the park, and they have the opportunity to make a whole lot of money.
Yep.
Right? And yeah, I had a mentor that always used to say mass attracts mass. No, it wasn't Einstein, but it's the truth, right? Once you get that, and I think
that's the attraction thing.
Yeah, you're saying about culture. It's
great salespeople will tell their friends, dude, you got to come and work here, man. Because every weekend you're telling me what your sales manager did to you. We don't have that here. Yeah. It's funny. We had our all hands meeting a little while back, and my CRO, David, he calls out the rest of the team and goes, hey, I got to bring this up again. Goes, Steve is the only CEO I have ever worked with who has no idea how much revenue we have generated. Like, I have no clue, no idea, right? And we, in January, I guess we set a company record. February, same thing, right? I don't even know I don't care. It's irrelevant to me. And he is shocked, and he's in enterprise. I mean, worked for ADP, Outreach, all these other big companies, right? And I really don't know, nor do I care, nor do I assign arbitrary quotas made up in some boardroom to my team and go, you have to hit this in these 30 calendar days. It's just mindless. But again, I guess that's why I'm thankful and humbled that we have these amazing teammates we have here, that they could all work for other bigger companies and make a ton more money. But we have something special here, and we really value what we do for the clients. So
you live what you live what you preach.
Yeah, I make the least amount of money on our whole team. Everybody makes more. What the hell do I care, right? We want to grow, right? We want to change the world of professional selling. So I don't care about that, right? You do the right things, the rest of it, will come. Again, if you build it, they will come. And so, that's my mantra.
Start with the why. Salespeople love the why. Everybody loves the why. To take Simon Sinek as the most overquoted, TED Talk in history, but it's very true. Like, it's that motivation and attaching your why to somebody else's is amazing, and it's fulfilling. And so the last thing I'm going to ask is,
yes, sir.
Quotas and arbitrary numbers. How do you fix that?
This is an easy one, but so I mentioned Daniel, right? My second favorite author, Daniel Pink, but number one is James Clear. So single best business book of all time ever written,
Atomic Habits,
right?
Yes.
And it's not close, okay?
Yeah.
But what James says is so poignant, and when I say it again, people look at me like I have 7 heads. Okay. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Period. End of story. So we don't even have time to get into the poppycock, right, that goals are, because they don't matter. And we can talk about this till the cows come home. Science shows that it doesn't, and so on. But the worst part about goals, and I'll use you. This is what I call out with all the Vistage folks and the CEOs around the country I speak to. Do you have a neighbor, Paul, where you live on either side of you?
I have 2 of them. Yeah.
Okay. What's one of their first names?
Tom. I'm calling you out, Tom.
All right. So after this podcast, go over to Tom's house, knock on the door, say, Tom, I need about a half hour of your time. I just want you to tell me all your goals, okay, for this year. Your personal goals, your family goals, your financial goals. And then I'm going to start to try to hit them. You probably wouldn't be too excited about hitting someone else's goals. Just a thought, but most people probably don't jump out of bed to hit somebody else's goals. We all understand why. What's a quota?
Somebody else's goal.
And companies don't get this. Like what? Salespeople care about 2 things. 3, if you're lucky. 1, themselves. 2, their families. The 3rd is your company. Only if you built the culture that shows them that you care about them more, right, than top line revenue. But that's why people don't respond to some arbitrary made up number that has nothing to do with anything. And until companies realize this, they're not going to have their salespeople reach their potential. But again, I'm the crazy one. So we'll just keep working with other crazy people that understand this.
Steve, you may be crazy, but this has been crazy interesting. So I truly appreciate, and I love the passion and the energy you bring to it. Your vision and mission is absolutely, your why is incredibly powerful, and it just comes through the pores. Hopefully it comes through when people are listening. How do people find you when they want to chat or they want to engage the company?
Yeah, probably LinkedIn's easy. I'm on there all the time, but you can just look up Steve Heroux, Heroux, or the Sales Collective, right? That's our company. So that's probably the easiest way to reach out. Again, online, same thing, thesalescollective.com. But try to do as much as we can to post and put new content up on LinkedIn. It's really, a great marketplace for that, for thought leadership. And the folks that comment on all our stuff, so many great nuggets and ideas and thoughts that people share. I'll leave you with this because you mentioned the why, which is really important, but a better example of a real why, not necessarily Simon's, but is from 1962. And JFK was at NASA, walking down the hallway, ran into a janitor, and he asked the janitor what he was doing. And the janitor said, which is just the most amazing answer ever. He says, "Mr. President, I'm helping to put a man on the moon." So if you are a leader of people, if you ask them, are they just going to say, "I just got to get this floor mopped until 5 o'clock on the dot and I'm out of here"? Or is there a bigger reason why they work for you and your company? If it's just for a paycheck and just to mop the floors, how would you ever think they're going to run through brick walls for you? Especially if you assign them somebody else's goals. So the why is critical. If you have the right people, again, there's no quotas aren't going to make a damn difference. They just want to advance, right, the company's mission and values. So that's kind of where I view the why a little differently than Simon.
Well, thank you. And thank you for this time together. Everybody, I would absolutely encourage you to make sure you're following Steve on LinkedIn. Look him up, follow the Sales Collective. Everybody over there produce great content. Proud to be a partner with them. And
thanks, man.
Absolutely. When is the next book coming out? Sorry, last thing.
It's supposed to be October 1st. So okay. October 1st, 2024, we got 5 months to get it ready. So thanks for the plug.
Will you come back on and we can do a book review together on that one?
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. That'd be fun. Okay.
So next time you'll hear on this podcast, you'll hear from Steve in a couple of months. We'll make sure that we do the salespeople are from Mercury. Sales managers are from Uranus. And so with that, I'm going to sign off from the Art and Science of Complex Sales. Keep shining bright, everybody, and have an amazing day. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Art and Science of Complex Sales. Please take a moment, like, subscribe, share this podcast on all your favorite platforms, and let's get the word out. This podcast is proud to be brought to you by Membrane.com. We are the world's top B2B sales platform. And in the world of B2B sales, with everything from prospecting to business acquisition to managing complex growth, Membrane has the right size technology for your sales team. Our latest innovation, the Coaching Cockpit, empowers your leaders, managers, and team with the information and tools they need to take their skills to the next level and to take advantage of the exponential power of effective sales coaching. With our technology and the top-tier team of sales partners around the world, Membrane is helping to achieve our driving vision. This is, quite simply, elevating the sales profession. To learn more, find us at www.membrane.com. That is membrain.com, or contact us via email at sales@membrane.com. Keep shining bright and have a wonderful day.